There's an unspoken agreement between humans and machines. You give the machine fuel, maintenance, and respect, and in return, it doesn't try to kill you. That agreement is the foundation of the modern car industry. It's why most cars are predictable, why they forgive mistakes, why they quietly step in when drivers overestimate themselves. But these cars refuse the agreement. They were too fast for their era, too violent for untrained drivers, too honest to be filtered by safety systems or marketing. They didn't correct mistakes, they amplified them. Some of these cars killed racing categories, some killed reputations, some killed people, and every single one of them forced the industry to quietly admit the same thing. Engineering had outrun human capability. This isn't a list of legends, it's a list of warnings. Machines that prove there are limits, and what happens when manufacturers ignore them. And the first car? The first car is so wrong it still feels illegal just to describe it. Porsche 917, street legal. The Porsche 917 was never meant to coexist with traffic. It was conceived in a world where rules were thin, safety was optional, and winning mattered more than survival. Porsche didn't build it to be driven, they built it to dominate. At Le Mans, the goal wasn't balance, it wasn't drivability, it was speed and nothing else. The result was a machine capable of over 240 miles per hour in the early 1970s, an era where most road cars struggled to remain stable at half that speed. The 917's aerodynamics were so primitive, they didn't push the car into the ground. They tried to lift it off the road. Drivers reported the same sensation again and again. At speed, the car felt light, unsettled, as if it wanted to escape. Some drivers refused to race it. Not because they lacked courage, but because they understood probability. At those speeds, instability wasn't thrilling, it was terminal. Porsche eventually refined the aerodynamics enough to make it survivable on track. And that should have been the end of the story. But someone made a decision that still feels insane. They legalized it for the street. No driver aids, no traction control, no electronic stability. Just a Le Mans prototype unleashed into a world of intersections, potholes, and distracted drivers. Every other car on this list is dangerous because of what it does. The 917 is dangerous because of what it is. It doesn't acknowledge human presence. It doesn't adapt. It doesn't forgive. It's not just the most dangerous car here. It's the most wrong. And every single one of them forced the industry to quietly admit the same thing. Engineering had outrun human capability. This isn't a list of legends. It's a list of warnings. Machines that prove there are limits. And what happens when manufacturers ignore them? And the first car? The first car is so wrong it still feels illegal just to describe it. TVR Cerbera Speed 12. TVR built its reputation on chaos. Their cars were loud, crude, and brutally honest. They rejected refinement in favor of sensation, and their customers knew exactly what they were signing up for. And then TVR went too far. The Cerbera Speed 12 wasn't theoretical. It wasn't a marketing stunt. It was a fully functioning car with around 800 horsepower delivered without filters, computers, or apologies. No ABS. No traction control, no stability systems. The power didn't build, it detonated. The chassis was overwhelmed, the tires were outmatched, the brakes were trying to keep up with physics that had already left the room. And here's the key detail, the one that separates this car from every other reckless machine. TVR canceled it themselves. No regulators forced them, no lawsuits stopped them. The company looked at the finished product and realized something uncomfortable. Selling this car would be irresponsible. When a manufacturer known for excess decides something is too dangerous, the line has been crossed. The Speed 12 didn't lose. It didn't fail. It scared its own creators into pulling the plug. Ford RS 200 Group B Rally was a mistake disguised as progress. Cars with absurd power-to-weight ratios were unleashed on narrow roads, driven flat out through forests, towns, and crowds that stood far too close for comfort. The Ford RS 200 was one of the most advanced machines of that era. Mid-engine layout, all-wheel drive, explosive acceleration. It was engineered to win, and it did exactly that. But winning wasn't the problem. Control was. These cars were faster than human reaction time, faster than visibility, faster than safety planning. When something went wrong, there was no space, no margin, and no time. People died. Not because drivers were careless, but because the machines were simply too capable. The RS200 helped expose the lie at the center of Group B. That drivers could always adapt. They couldn't. Group B was banned. The RS200 was detuned, and motorsport learned a lesson written in blood. This car didn't just end a category, it ended an era of denial. Shelby Cobra 427. The Shelby Cobra 427 is what happens when power arrives before understanding. A lightweight British chassis was never designed to handle the violence of a massive American V8. But someone decided to try anyway. There were no computers to intervene, no traction systems to rescue mistakes, no structural rigidity to protect you from torque. When the throttle opened, the car didn't accelerate. It lunged. The rear tires broke loose instantly. The chassis twisted. The steering demanded constant correction. This wasn't a car you learned gradually. It was a car that punished ignorance immediately. Mistakes weren't educational, they were final. The Cobra became a legend, but legends don't tell the full story. Survivors do. And the survivors all say the same thing. This car didn't care who you were. Porsche 930. Turbocharging arrived before restraint. The Porsche 930 Turbo introduced forced induction to the road, before engineers truly understood how violent it could be. At low revs, nothing happened. Then boost arrived, suddenly and brutally. Rear engine weight distribution made things worse. Lift mid-corner and the rear didn't slide, it snapped. No ABS, no traction control, no electronic safety net. The 930 didn't warn you. It waited. It waited for overconfidence, for a moment of hesitation, for a single wrong assumption. Then it struck. The car earned its nickname, Widowmaker, honestly. It didn't just build Porsche's performance image, it built fear. Our UFCTR Yellowbird. The Yellowbird looks deceptively simple. Rear engine, turbocharged. Manual transmission, skinny tires. But simplicity is what makes it terrifying. There is no margin here, no buffer, no system smoothing out your inputs. The famous Nürburgring lap isn't impressive because it's fast. It's impressive because it looks barely survivable. The car is always moving, always rotating, always threatening to snap. The driver isn't dominating the machine, he's negotiating with it. Only a handful of people on Earth could drive this car properly. Everyone else was guessing. And guessing at speed is how people die. It built fear. Ferrari F40. This was Ferrari before lawyers, marketing teams, and risk committees took over. The F40 is raw in a way modern cars can't be. Twin turbos, no ABS, no traction control, no power steering, bare carbon fiber, minimal insulation, nothing between you and the machine. The car doesn't hide vibration, it doesn't soften mistakes, it doesn't protect your ego. At speed, it feels alive, but indifferent. This isn't a car you conquer, it's a car you survive. De Tomaso Pantera. The Pantera wasn't evil, it was mismatched. A mid-engine sports car sold to buyers who had no experience with mid-engine dynamics. The result was predictable and disastrous. Snap oversteer, unreliable cooling, brutal torque delivery. The car demanded respect its buyers didn't know they needed to give. And ignorance at speed isn't forgiven, it's punished. Lotus Carlton. This wasn't supposed to exist. A four-door sedan faster than Ferraris, capable of outrunning police. Used in crimes authorities couldn't stop. Governments panicked. Lawmakers debated banning it outright. When a family car scares the state, the social contract is broken. Speed was no longer exotic, it was accessible, and that terrified everyone. Dodge Viper RT/10 no ABS. No traction control, No stability control, just a massive V10 and your instincts. Thousands crashed. Dodge didn't apologize. The Viper didn't adapt to drivers. Drivers adapted, or they didn't survive the lesson. This wasn't refinement, it was a challenge. These cars weren't built for safety. They weren't built for comfort. They were built to prove something, and they proved it too well. That humans have limits, that machines don't care, and that sometimes engineering goes too far before anyone pulls the brakes. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you understood it. This is Horsepower Habits. And the next video is about a car that slipped through anyway, and never should have. Cut. Silence. End screen.